What's up, everyone? Welcome to Juno's Guitar Bootcamp. Today I'm going to be talking about strumming patterns and ways that you can use your right hand to switch it up by adding different techniques and different strumming patterns that kind of make your progression sound a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to start with 4 easy chords: G major, E minor, C add 9, and D major. All right, most of you already know those shapes, but if not, get them under your hands. They're pretty simple and straightforward, but depending on the way that I play it with my right hand, that's really going to determine the way that the song sounds and feels. So I'm going to start with just a very simple pattern. It's classic, and I love it because it's just so simple, but it's also really beautiful and has a lot of emotional elements to it. First strumming pattern that I'm going to do is just... First of all, a lot of people ask about the pick and if the pick matters. I literally just cut up a card because I didn't have a pick. I took an old credit card and cut it up and created a pick. So don't worry too much about the pick. I think a great strumming pattern really is all in the wrist and how much pressure you apply to the strings. Okay, so with our first pattern, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down. Even though I'm saying down, up, down, up, down, I'm still constantly keeping my wrist moving up and down, even if I'm not striking the strings. And that was something that took me a little time to get used to in the beginning because I was so rigid, like down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down. It's not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you want to kind of get more into a flow, I recommend practicing just going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And it's not, I'm not going like that. It's kind of like a, you know, like a flow. So if I really, really, really slow that down, I'm going down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. No matter what, keep your wrist going because that's what's going to make it sound more natural and more in a flow. When you switch chords, notice when I went to this G major, I took the bottom fingers off so you can hear the difference between, I like to kind of do a pedal kind of tone with leaving my ring finger and my pinky there. So when I'm going from G, going down to that E minor, I'm still leaving that there, my ring finger and my pinky. And then same thing when I go to C add 9. All right, I'm leaving that there. And then when you go to D, you can also leave that there, but one cool thing I like to do is lift my pinky up, and that kind of gives, you can also lift your first finger, or excuse me, your middle finger up. Okay, and kind of experiment with that, have fun with that, but as you're practicing the strumming pattern, I want you to just get used to leaving these 2 fingers here. I'm on the 3rd fret of the B string and the 3rd fret of the high E string. And as I'm strumming, it kind of just creates this really beautiful kind of anchor. Okay, so check it out. I'm going to slow it down. Work on that. That's strumming pattern number 1. Strumming pattern number 2. Okay, I love kind of that random picking kind of pattern. Some people may consider this kind of like an arpeggio, meaning when you just strum the chord all together, you're just strumming the chord. But if you were to play the individual strings, you get what's an arpeggio, which means you're playing the notes of the chord individually as opposed to just all together. You can either create patterns and repeat those same patterns, or you can do it randomly. So for example, let's say I'm going to choose a pattern where I'm going to do the low E string, the D string, the G string, and then the B string. So I'm not hitting the A string and I'm not hitting the high E string. Check out how that would sound. I'm going to do that same thing when I get to the E minor chord. Same thing when I get to C at 9, but this time I'm hitting the A string and I'm skipping the D string and then going G, B, E. But it's still that same concept that I'm starting with the lowest note, which in this case is the A string, and then I'm skipping that next string and then playing the next 3 strings. Okay, and then same thing when I go down to the D. Now, when I get to that D, I don't have a string to skip, so I'm kind of just playing them in a row. Okay, so I'm going to kind of speed that up so you can kind of hear how that sounds. But that's an example of taking a pattern with your right hand and repeating that same pattern over and over. Even though you're changing the chords, you're keeping the same kind of pattern with your right hand, okay? At the end, what you kind of started to see me do was this random kind of picking pattern, right? And that means I'm thinking more kind of like rhythmically as opposed to sticking to a pattern. So for example, if my hand is on G major and I'm kind of randomly picking these strings, as long as I'm in a pattern and I'm kind of playing it in a way that, you know, you want to leave some space, you want it to be interesting, but you kind of can't really mess up as long as you're holding this G major. So check it out what I mean. You can experiment, and what I like to do is I use my ear to, as I'm kind of randomly picking, I find the tones that sound good to me, that feel good to me, and then I tend to kind of repeat those, okay? So that is strumming pattern number 2, using arpeggios, and also just kind of randomizing the way that you play those arpeggios or putting them in a specific pattern. Strumming pattern number 3 is what I like to do for more rhythmic stuff, or if I'm playing by myself or I'm playing with another singer. And this is palm muting. What you do is you kind of rest your palm right here on the strings. You see, it kind of gives a very different vibe than strumming or, you know, playing randomly or the arpeggios. The kind of trick to this technique is trying to mute the strings with your palm without completely cutting the sound off. So if I'm completely, there's no sound. You still want to leave enough, you want to be able to hear the pitch of the strings, okay? So go ahead and rest your palm here and give that a shot. Okay, as you're kind of palm muting and playing the strings, you can choke it completely or kind of let it ring out a little bit more. So it's about finding that balance of what kind of sound you're trying to create. But that's another cool pattern to use to switch it up, to add some rhythm and just kind of keep it interesting. Okay, so I'm going to play one more time through that last. So those are 3 picking patterns that you can use. And just for a 4th one, just for fun, as a little bonus to throw it in, you can do a combination, right? With the mute picking and the arpeggios and the strumming, you can kind of mix them all up. So let's say I'm starting off strumming. Okay, so as you can see with that, I'm kind of taking a combination. It's kind of like a hybrid. I'm doing a little bit of mute picking, a little bit of the arpeggios, a little bit of the strumming, and I'm just kind of creating a groove. Do not overthink this. I promise you. I think that's the biggest mistake I made when I first started playing, was kind of like overthinking it. Music is all about a feeling, a vibe, catching a vibe, an emotion. So, you know, you may kind of even develop your own style, or you may come up with a strumming pattern that's not exactly like this or exactly like the one I explained, but it feels right to you or matches the song. Go with that. Like, this is about you using your right hand to develop different techniques, using your left hand to play chords, or different scales or different sounds or different notes. And together, your right hand, your left hand, and your experiences in life all come together to kind of create your own unique sounds. I hope today inspired you and gave you some ideas, but I encourage you to also sit down and come up with different ideas that maybe no one else has showed you, but kind of feel right to you, and experiment and explore. And as always, have fun.